Sufferin, Succotash. Does that phrase call anything to mind? If so, if anything, it's probably a cartoon cat who's a little bit upset that he couldn't quite get what he was after. Sad, in fact, that we don't associate succotash with food, which is, in fact, what it is. Succotash, derivative of the Narragansett word okay, it's basically succotash with a lot of extra letters thrown in there for good measure. It's just a dish of corn and lima beans, oftentimes with other vegetables thrown in, whether it be tomatoes, onions, peppers, and things like that. It's really just a warm summer or spring vegetable salad, and it goes wonderfully well on its own or paired with other items. Now, when I'm cooking something that's homey and healthy and very basic like a succotash, I like to pair it with something that's maybe more elevated. Somehow I think this pairing of fancier items with more basic items creates a culinary yin and yang that's really quite exciting. So when looking for something to pair with our very basic, simple succotash, I say, look to the scallop. That's right, scallops. Now they come in two main varieties. You've got your bay scallops and your diver scallops. Bay scallops are the little tiny guys, great in like soups and stews, think, cioppino. Diver scallops get their name because people actually, at least in some parts of the world, dive down into the ocean and harvest the scallops. And they tend to be a lot larger and more expensive. They also come in two sub-varieties. Dry packed and wet packed, and the name kind of gives it away. The wet packed scallops are generally packed in a wet solution or brine, and for that reason they tend to be a little more difficult to get a really golden brown crust on. So if you can find dry packed scallops, I recommend it. You may have to ask your fishmonger, but either one will work. We will be using the diver scallops for this recipe, and I actually have wet packed ones because it's all I could find. And I was tempted to go to 7 different grocery stores to try and find dry packed scallops, but that just didn't seem like a good ethical decision right now in this current climate. Sorry about it. Now, before we can even get to our scallops, we must make our succotash. So here are the ingredients we'll be working with. We have fresh sweet corn, frozen lima beans, clove of garlic, 1 small onion, yellow or white, does not matter, some good quality butter, grape tomatoes, and fresh basil. And of course, we need some fat to cook this in, so I'm going with bacon. I've got about 4 strips here that I'm gonna cook up first. That's right, bacon. Look, I'm totally aware that I am turning a otherwise vegan recipe totally omnivorous here, but look, this little pig sacrificed his life for my culinary pleasure. That's not a sacrifice I take lightly. Today, we honor the pig. Thank you, pig. Do pigs have names? Maybe it was Russell. I think we've wandered down this line of thought a bit too far. Let's cook. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get our bacon into a pan over medium heat and let that start to cook. While that's gonna go, we're gonna go ahead and get our corn cut off the cob. I find the easiest way to do this is to take a smaller bowl, invert it into a larger bowl, put the corn cob on there, and then that allows you easy access to not only cut the kernels off, but also catches all of them for you. Once you've got your corn completely shaved off the cob, go ahead and start cooking your lima beans per the package directions. Typically, you're gonna get them into a pot, add enough water to cover, season it with some salt, and then just boil them for about 10 or 12 minutes. When your bacon is nice and crispy, go ahead and get it out to drain and get most of the fat out of the pan, but definitely set it aside. We'll need it later. Leave a couple teaspoons in your pan and leave that over medium heat. And now go ahead and add in all of your corn, the onion that we went ahead and minced up, and get that seasoned up as usual with salt and pepper. We're going to let this cook for about 8 to 10 minutes over medium heat until the onions are soft and translucent and the corn is just browned just slightly in that bacon fat. At that point, we're going to add in 1 minced clove of garlic and drain the lima beans thoroughly and go ahead and get those in. Stir everything around so it gets to know one another, and then once everything is well combined, add 2 tablespoons of butter, kill the heat, and work that in. Add in about 10 halved grape or cherry tomatoes And finally, tear in 3 or 4 leaves of basil. That's it. Stir everything and you are done. You know, it occurs to me, we're gonna have our delicious warm kind of vegetable salad on the plate, our nicely seared, tender and juicy scallops, but we need kind of something to bring the two together, to make the flavors kind of make sense. Let's see, we've got some basil in the succotash. Pesto. You're gonna get 2 or 3 packs of basil, or if you're tearing it off a plant or trying to measure it, I don't know, maybe 1 cup loosely packed. Go ahead and get the leaves and any kind of small stems that can go on into a food processor. You're gonna add about 1/4 cup of walnuts. Sure, pine nuts are traditional, but I like walnuts. Toss in 1 clove of garlic, season that up with salt and pepper. And then the last 2 ingredients are going to be a good heavy grating of fresh Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, the good stuff please, and about, I don't know, 1/4 cup or so of olive oil. You'll probably need to add more, but I like to start off with about 1/4 cup. Next, get the lid on it, and let's go ahead and get this stuff blended up into a nice, smooth, herbaceous sauce. Should have a, nice thick consistency, but not too chunky. Kind of like that. With our succotash done and waiting in the wings, it is time to turn our attention to the scallop. I have here 1 pound of diver scallops, and they do contain a lot of moisture. Again, they were the wet packed scallops, so we're gonna do our best to get as much of that moisture off of there as we can. And as we get them out onto our paper towel, you want to look for this little guy right here. If your scallops still have this little muscle attached, you just want to peel it off, just like that. It's the adductor muscle that helps the scallop open and close its shell, but I don't think you'll be needing to do that anytime soon, and quite frankly, it's just a little tough and not all that appetizing. So, scallop 1 away. We're going to go ahead and get some more paper towels on here and apply some light pressure, and just leave these out for about 10-15 minutes to get as dry as we can get them. Once we have gotten them as dry as we can, we're going to take that paper towel cover off, and they get only one thing. A nice sprinkling of kosher salt. Alright, I have a pan here over relatively high heat, and here comes some more of that bacon fat, and the scallops go in. Once they're in, they're going to cook for 2 minutes, and then we will flip. After 2 minutes, we are going to give them a flip, and they should be perfectly cooked, and they should release very easily. I find the easiest way to do this is just with your finger and the fork. Once you've got them flipped, I give it about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes more, and then out they come. Lastly, I'm just going to go over top of them with a little squeeze of fresh lemon. Now, when it comes to plating, I like to make a bed of the succotash, put the scallops on top, and I've got our bacon from earlier that I chopped up very finely. I'm just going to sprinkle that around here just to make sure everybody knows there's some pig in here. Next up, we're going to put our pesto in. However, these are beautiful scallops, and I don't want to completely cover them up, so I just stir the pesto up, get a little spoonful here, and just kind of let it slide off the edge. And lastly, just get some chives right over the top. You are ready to serve. I'd say that looks pretty good. Let's make sure the taste matches the visual appearance. Crust we got on these scallops is phenomenal. They're still nice and translucent. They're kind of opaque in the middle. They're not totally cooked all the way through, so they're going to be really succulent. So whatever you do this week, please find the ingredients to make this or something similar to this, because it is spectacular. The scallops perfectly cooked, just 2 minutes on one side, the minute on the other side. As long as your pan's hot enough, they're going to be nice and medium, still really nice and tender. The succotash has a lovely creaminess, obviously from 2 tablespoons of butter, but Also, the corn and some of the liquid it releases kind of helps form a sauce. The flavors of the basil and the succotash and the pesto really pair well together, and then little pieces of crispy bacon. Well, I'm going to sit here and continue to devour the rest of this plate and perhaps a second one. But I believe it's time for you to head on out for this week. So definitely drop me some comments down below if you haven't subscribed already. I mean, what are you waiting for? So get on out of here. Have a great week. And until I see you again, go make something delicious.